time to light the match for the burning truth with Casey Hendrickson.
And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to The Burning Truth. I'm your host, Casey Hendrickson. Once again, new text line is up and running, 866-71-TRUTH. You can send us a text message. Sometimes we'll read them. Sometimes we won't. I want to thank R&B Car Company, locations in South Bend, Warsaw, and Fort Wayne. Go to rbcarcompany.com. I'm kind of stoked to be able to do polls, though. I can do polls with the texting service, so that's going to be cool. They're going to do that. Maybe the poll tomorrow will be how fast will the shooting war start? Casey, this is Tom Cotton, Libertarian County Chair and candidate for state Senate. Would like to thank MNC and you in particular for the opportunities provided this year to speak about the libertarian movement in Indiana, nationally, and of course on the local level. While you may take flag for letting on libertarians on a conservative show, I hope that I have shown that the Libertarian Party is the true home of conservatives and those that seek to protect civil liberties and freedoms in St. Joseph County. I look forward to talking again once this election is over. On a personal note, I'd like to say thank you to my supporters and that you make this grueling election process worth it. Now, thank you very much. I appreciate that. A couple of people thanking us for the show. This is an interesting one. It's like, Casey, do you really think that Trump will win? Well, I don't think that Trump can lose a fair election at this point. And I'm not alone. Liberal pollsters think that too. So we're at a point where the polls are either so completely, totally wrong in Trump's favor, or, yeah, I don't know. Do I think that he can win? Yeah. Do I think it's going to be very close? I think it's going to be close in that the states that go one way or another will be decided by not a lot of votes. I think that the Electoral College is going to be a different story. I'm not buying into the tie draw thing. I'm not really buying into that at all. But I do think that we have an issue with election integrity. And to give you kind of an idea, I mean, we have, again, an illegal vote that was cast in Michigan. That's just one that we know of. We have a voting malfunction that happened in Kentucky that's been confirmed by the county clerk there. It highlighted Harris's name with a Trump selection. So when you pick Donald Trump at this county clerk or this county election in Kentucky, when you pick Trump, it highlighted Harris. Now it's been confirmed by the Kentuckian or a Kentuckian, and it was confirmed by the county clerk in Laurel County. Okay. So again, maybe not. You have the Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson of Michigan, saying that there is massive voter machine issues for people with disabilities. I've highlighted at least 2 cases locally in the listening audience where you have people going into long-term care facilities and registering people who don't have the mental facilities or faculties to register to vote, and then casting a ballot. These are people who do not have the cognitive ability to care for themselves or make legal decisions for themselves. The situation in Arizona is also getting interesting. A judge has ordered Arizona elections chief to release the names of 218,000 voters who are lacking citizenship proof. You know, we've got 600,000 people almost in the state of Indiana who have not provided any citizenship proof at all. You've got the Nevada Supreme Court that has just ruled that officials must count ballots received up to 3 days after the election, even those ballots that do not have a postmark. Having a postmark is one thing. If the mail screwed up, or it's a military ballot that just didn't get back in time, but it was postmarked before the election, it should be counted. But we're talking about the Supreme Court in Nevada saying even those who don't have a postmark, you still have to count it. Nevada's a swing state. Nevada is also a state with a massive history of voter fraud. It's my home state. I can tell you all about it. So, yeah, there's real issues there. Do those little issues like that, do they swing an election enough? I don't know. But that's why if you are a Trump supporter, you have to show up in such force that it makes those little things more difficult. Now, as I've said before, there's been some changes to laws that have been really beneficial. There's been some victories in Pennsylvania and North Carolina, also even in Michigan, although some of those have been overturned again. So there are some victories in election integrity. But you're never going to get to a point, and we're at a point now where Democrats haven't trusted the results of elections now for several decades. Republicans don't trust the results of elections now. Both sides don't trust the results. You've got the Democrats actively gearing up to say that this election was stolen. You've got Republicans actively gearing up to say that this election was stolen. It is what it is. Until we make a decision as a country that we are going to change the system and fix the system so that everybody is at least confident in the results for the most part, we are going to continue to have a powder keg, period. And the easiest way to do that is to clear the voter rolls, start over, honestly, just start over, require proof of citizenship to register to vote for federal elections, period, end of story. And if we have somebody who doesn't have access to that, you have some mechanism that allows them to be able to prove that they are a citizen. And maybe there's somebody who's 80 or 90 years old and they don't have their birth certificate. You know, maybe there's a case like that. There's very few of those, but it does exist. So you have some mechanism to offer a curing process. But that's the only way we're going to get back to this, where people believe in the results of this thing. Because right now, nobody believes in the results. Democrats have been challenging the results of the elections going back since before 2000, guys. And they're pitching a fit about every single election. They spread conspiracy theories without any proof. When there is proof, they tell you that there isn't proof from Republicans that it is a conspiracy theory. Friendly reminder that it was Democrat senators who sent a letter to Wayne County, Michigan before the 2016 election concerned about Wayne County, Michigan's history of voter fraud. And then Wayne County happened in 2020, where there's clear voter fraud in Wayne County. You know, this is something that should not be a contentious issue. It's only a contentious issue because one side wants to exploit the election vulnerabilities to be able to cheat. You realize our entire history, okay? Everybody's listening to this show right now. The entire history, we have known who the winner of the election is the night of the election, with the exception of 2000 with the hanging Chad thing. Even then, we still knew because Al Gore never led, okay? Bush always won that election. But with the exception of that, we always knew who the president was at the end of the night. Only in 2020 did that change. And now they're telling us every single year, oh, we can't get you the results on the night of. It's going to take us days. It might take us weeks. How is it that just, 8 years ago, this was not a problem? How is that? 8 years ago wasn't a problem. 6 years ago it wasn't a problem. Only 4 years ago did it become a problem. And it's become so mainstream now that everybody's like, well, we're probably not going to know the results. Why? It's inexcusable. And the only reason is because, you go to bed at night and you have somebody who won the election in 2020 and you wake up and suddenly they didn't win the election in 2020. And the only reason they didn't win the election is because, mysterious things showed up in the middle of the night in a couple of states and things were changed. And, it was just a glitch. It was a correction. It was just this. It was just that. All happening in the middle of the night when people weren't supposed to be working anyway. And you can't expect people to trust the results of that election. By the way, I wouldn't expect Democrats to accept those results either. Like if you went to bed at night and Kamala Harris won Michigan, and then you wake up in the morning and Donald Trump won Michigan because a massive dump of votes happened magically in the middle of the night, and you had hundreds of people with sworn affidavits under penalty of going to jail that there was cheating that they observed in the state of Michigan, and nobody heard it, I wouldn't blame Democrats for being ticked off. I wouldn't. We have got to fix the system so that we get confidence in our own elections back. When the United States of America goes to other countries and helps them set up their elections, we put all sorts of security provisions and election integrity provisions in place for those countries that we do not do for ourselves. The simple reality is this. Doesn't matter where you are in the political spectrum. Simple reality is this. The United States has the most vulnerable, fraud-prone, and least secure elections of any first world country in the world. That is a fact. That is not up for debate. We do not have the freest and fairest elections in the world. That is not true. Arguably, it's France. We do not do the things that we tell other countries to do to secure their elections. And you have got to ask yourself why that is. And when you throw in there that there's all these weird shenanigans that are happening, you've got this group in Pennsylvania. Again, 60% of the people that they registered were fraudulent. What happens to that group? They registered only Democrats. That group went dark. They got exposed. They went dark. They vanished in Pennsylvania. Gone. All of their social media is taken down, everything else. All they did was register Democrats. That's a fraudulent organization. In the state of Indiana, folks, particularly in St. Joseph County, and other counties too, but in St. Joseph County, numerous cases of voter fraud and illegal voter registration are in our history, with actual felonious convictions and prison time. Some of the people who are convicted and went to prison in St. Joseph County work for the Democratic Party again today, now that they're out of prison. That's the truth. And if we're going to get to a point where we're going to trust the results of our elections, we have got to, as a country, fix the process instead of just demonizing the other side. And so rather than, I subject to you, rather than just try and cure the voter rolls or whatever, I think it should be a blank slate, start over, you finish the presidential election, everybody on the voter rolls everywhere gets nuked. Everybody. If you want to vote in the next election in 2 years, you got 2 years to get your butt to the Secretary of State's office and re-register. And if you don't, your fault. And if you're dead, chances are you're not going to get registered. If you're in the country illegally, then hopefully we can pass something like the SAVE Act and actually require proof of U.S. citizenship to actually register to vote. And if you don't have proof of your U.S. citizenship for whatever reason, as the Brennan Center says almost 10% of you have, well, you've got 2 years to figure it out. And I think that there should be an office in the federal government that helps you with that. Because there are people who are, over 80 years old. Getting your birth certificate is not the easiest thing in the world. That's why they keep delaying the Real ID Act. But we're supposed to be shifting over to this Real ID now for how many years? And they keep delaying it. And you have to ask yourself, is part of that delay because of the election system? Or is it really because there's so many people that don't have proof that they're U.S. citizens? Or is there something else going on? Like, hey, there is a lot of people who don't have proof they're U.S. citizens because guess what? They're not. And we don't want anybody to find out. The only way this seems fair for everybody, where if you're a Democrat, you can't complain. If you're a Republican, you can't complain. Everybody gets nuked. Voter rolls start at 0. You got 2 years to re-register. But you have to, before you do that, you have to have proof that you must be a U.S. citizen. Provide proof of that before you can register. Plain and simple. Folks, that fixes 99% of the problems that we have with our election. Well, 98% that we have with our elections. That really fixes it. Now ask yourself this. Why is one side, and only one side, so diametrically opposed to that? Well, look at the party affiliation of the vast majority of people every single year who are convicted of election fraud. There's some Republicans in there. There's just 90% not Republicans that are in there. Got more coming up. Tuned into The Burning Truth. We got our first hate text message, too. Got to give love for the haters out there. Can't wait until tomorrow's election results. I can't wait to listen to you and the rest of the 95.3 MNC lame commentators cry and whine about losing again. Y'all should be used to losing by now. I don't know. We haven't lost yet, though. I mean, technically, we haven't. Your messaging and fear-mongering is whack. Who says whack anymore? And normal Americans are going to teach you something tomorrow. Well, what did that sound like? That sounded like a threat, Morgan. I'm going to teach you something tomorrow. So let me get this straight. My side is the one fear-mongering, while your side is out there, what? Trump is the literal end of democracy. He's literally Hitler. We're literally Nazis. Fascism. The end of democracy. Will be a dictator from day one. Will imprison his political opponents. All of that stuff. So we're the side of fear mongering. Cue my audio, please. This may be my favorite piece of leftist hysteria. They made this like short film and they put it on the internet. Have a listen to this.
We weren't always like this.
No, we weren't. Fear mongering.
We had a beautiful life. The best parties. The most beautiful friends. We thought it was just another election. So a lot of us didn't vote. Why bother? Everyone knew the system was rigged. Many of us even voted for them. I know it sounds crazy now, but we didn't like Democrats back then. We were angry about the vaccine mandates and how they handled the war in Gaza and the way they wanted to censor free speech on the internet.
They want unquestioned obedience.
So what did we end up doing? We voted for the guys who openly said they wanted to imprison dissenters and use the military against their political opponents. So yeah, we were wrong on that. Big time. When Trump got sick and died, Vance was 39 years old when he became president. 30 years later, he's still president today. And with the Supreme Court on his side, they gave him dictatorial powers. They took away women's reproductive rights, outlawed contraception, and removed the minimum wage. Then we had repression of dissent, AI surveillance of everything we did or said on a level we couldn't imagine. The government under Vance, Peter Thiel, and Elon Musk set up concentration camps for illegal immigrants, then legal immigrants, then even homeless people. They finally admitted climate change was real, but it was too late. Florida sank into the Gulf and the West burned, and cities across the country became uninsurable, then uninhabitable. Musk and Thiel poured all of our resources into artificial intelligence so they and their friends could become immortal. I don't know what happened to them, but I know what happened to us.
Yeah, that's the great irony there is, of course, Democrats are proposing a lot of the things that they claim. But yeah, we're the side that fearmongers. I got more coming up. You're tuned into The Burning Truth.
The Burning Truth with Casey Hendrickson.
All right, I promised. People ask me, like, hey, we got to talk about Peanut. This cannot stand. The memes are glorious. It's sad. And we have to talk about poor little Peanut. Do you realize the state of New York has devoted more resources to surveilling, capturing, raiding, then capturing, then executing a damn squirrel than they have with illegal immigrants or anybody on Epstein's list? You realize that? In case you don't know, Peanut the squirrel, which could, by the way, give Donald Trump New York. Wouldn't that, dude, seriously, that would be hysterical, Morgan. If New York goes red because of Peanut the squirrel. Peanut the squirrel is more than just a social media sensation. He's in the warm embrace of Harambe right now, by the way. He was also the namesake of an animal rescue run by a New York couple that adopted him. Last year, Mark and Danielle Longo opened Peanut's Freedom Farm Animal Sanctuary, a haven where neglected and homeless animals receive a second chance at life, named after their pet squirrel, who they rescued 7 years ago. The sanctuary, which they say has helped 350 animals, was also made possible in large part by donations gathered through Peanut's viral social media accounts. So Peanut massive social media following on Instagram. Well, now New York State surveyed, raided, captured, and then killed Peanut. Mark Longo worries that the sanctuary may actually be in trouble. We've relied heavily on Peanut and his internet family to gather donations to help more animals, he said. I don't even know how we will continue to fundraise for this nonprofit. He says he's uncertain why the New York Department of Environmental Conservation chose to seize and euthanize Peanut after 7 years, during which time there had been no complaints about Peanut. But according to the Center for Consumer Freedom Managing Director Will Coggin, the DEC's actions are in line with the misguided approach of the animal welfare movement. The death of Peanut appears to track with a broader trend in the animal rights movement of killing animals, he said, which I've documented many times on this show. Sadly, many of these people have a better dead than fed mentality. Coggin pointed to one shocking case of Maya the Chihuahua, which you have heard about and has been featured on this show several times. So Maya the Chihuahua was a family pet that was on the front porch of a family in Virginia's yard, okay? PETA pulled up and kidnapped the dog off of their private property and then killed the dog. I know. It's disgusting. So PETA has euthanized about 79% of the dogs and cats that it took in last year at its shelter, which state inspectors likened to a euthanasia clinic. Though PETA has national recognition, Center for Consumer Freedom data suggests that it's smaller animal rescues like Peanut's Freedom Farm that do the majority of actual rescuing. The group found that PETA only adopted 58 animals in 2022, which we told you about, a 2.1% adoption rate. The nearby Norfolk Animal Care and Adoption Center, it said, took in 4,337 animals that year and had a euthanasia rate of just 10%, meaning it adopted out 90% of their animals. PETA kills the animals. Pretty much everybody but PETA saves animals. PETA kills the animals. Now, of course, Peanut was seized by the state of New York. This is more than just the fact that this is a famous animal. Okay, this is a gray squirrel and has viral accounts on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. But Peanut was also killed with Fred the raccoon. Again, also at the sanctuary. They got killed so they could be tested for rabies. Now, again, for 7 years, there'd never been a complaint against Peanut. None whatsoever. Now, Peanut's guardian took to Instagram to memorialize his beloved pet in a video. Through tears, Longo and his girlfriend at his side said that Peanut was the best thing that had ever happened to them. Longo also asked fans for financial help for a legal battle and for his nonprofit, Peanut's Freedom Farm. So the DEC claims that Peanut, who was notably docile and friendly over the course of his very public-facing life, bit one of the investigators on the hand while being confiscated from his home on Wednesday. In addition, a person involved with the investigation was bitten by the squirrel to test for rabies. Both animals were euthanized. The animals were being tested for rabies, and anyone who has been in contact with these animals is strongly encouraged to consult their physician, they said. So just so we're clear, the government's position is we had to kill them because of rabies tests, because you have to kill the animal to do the rabies test. The problem is that the animals were not aggressive. The animals did not hurt anybody until you came to confiscate the animal to begin with. And what do animals tend to do when strangers pick them up? They tend to bite. So you had no reason to believe that there was an actual rabies risk. Your person wouldn't have been bitten if they didn't try to kidnap the animal to begin with. So 7 years ago, this squirrel was saved. This squirrel is very docile with his family. A stranger picked it up and it bit the stranger because that's what, animals do. The resilient and adorable Peanut inspired Longo to move to upstate New York last year, found Peanut's Freedom Farm, the animal sanctuary and rescue operation on Wednesday. Peanut and Fred the raccoon were seized by the Department of Environmental Conservation after multiple anonymous complaints about wild animals living in the Longo house. Yeah, multiple anonymous complaints, sure. So they've got a rescue. And somebody around them doesn't like the rescue, I guess, is what the deal is. So they come and they take the They take the two most famous ones. Is that kind of what's happening here? So we live in a world in which the state of New York will devote a lot of resources and a lot of energy to taking animals that are no danger to anybody at all and kill them because New York, but they won't actually address any of the real issues. Now, this is not a lone standing thing. This is the LA Times, also from this week. After deputies took her pet goat to be butchered, a girl won $300,000 from Shasta County. A 9-year-old girl who fell in love with a goat that she had raised for the Shasta District Fair was heartbroken when deputies wielding a search warrant confiscated the furry livestock, taking him away to be butchered. 2 years after the scandal erupted, Shasta County has agreed to pay $300,000 to the girl's family to settle the legal dispute over the floppy-eared brown and white goat named Cedar. The young girl had raised the goat for the 2022 fair as part of the program intended to teach youngsters how to care for farm animals. Of course, we're in Indiana. We understand all about this, but this is California. But when it came time to sell Cedar and turn him over to be butchered, Jessica Long's 9-year-old daughter couldn't do it. Long took the goat away from the fair, offered to pay for the costs, and pled with fair officials to let her daughter keep Cedar. Instead, the Shasta County Sheriff's Office deployed deputies, a search warrant, and drove hundreds of miles across Northern California to find and take the goat from Billy's mini farm where Long had taken him until the dispute was resolved. So they actually had a goat at a farm, where you can have a goat. It is not clear who contacted and instructed the sheriff's office to get involved. The case caused an uproar, and in a federal lawsuit, Long and her daughter alleged deputies wrongfully took out a search warrant, seized Cedar, and turned the animal over to fair officials, attorneys who accused county and fair officials of using law enforcement to intervene in what they said was a legal civil dispute over who owned the goat. So Cedar, who was bought at the county fair for $902, was butchered, but it remains unclear who actually did it. So U.S. District Judge Dale Drozd approved the settlement that requires Shasta County to pay over $300,000 to Long and her daughter to settle the federal suit out of court. So, illegal immigrants, fentanyl, voter fraud, all of these things. Yeah, no effort, no resources. They're seen as minor little things, but they sure make sure that they can go take animals from kids and animal sanctuaries. And they'll make sure that they execute those search warrants. They'll make sure that they execute those animals. God forbid you want to secure the border, though. Can't do that. Got more coming up. You're tuned into The Burning Truth. All right, I've made a change to my X account's profile. If you want to go check it out, it's at Casey the Host on X.com or Twitter. And I've got a Peanut the Squirrel Don't Tread on Me graphic up there now. It's sad. I feel bad for these people, but the memes have been pretty dang glorious. We have to talk about Lily Tang Williams, to be precise. Now, she's running for office in New Hampshire. Now, Jake Sullivan, who works for the Biden administration, who worked for Hillary Clinton's campaign, who Hillary Clinton blamed, by the way, for being the guy who came up with the idea to illegally use a private email server. So a debate happened here. Now, Lily Tang Williams is a Chinese immigrant and a survivor of the Chinese Communist Party. And she's running for office. And again, her opponent is Jake Sullivan's wife. I want you to listen to this 1-minute soundbite here because it is a savage, brutal takedown, and Lily Tang is going viral for all the right reasons.
And hope for the best. Hope that the results will trickle down to hardworking people. I take a very different approach. I believe that the middle class deserves a tax cut, and I believe that we will do a lot for this country by ensuring that we don't continue this disastrous tax policy.
Ms. Williams, You are wealthy. You're worth $20 million to $30 million. How do you know about regular people suffering? Do you go shopping, go to Walmart, buy food? I talk to those people. And you pretend to be a renter in Nashua a few months ago, moved back to run for this open seat with millions of dollars from Washington, D.C. insiders. And the millions of dollars. I don't have money to run a TV ad. And you pretend you are poor, complain rent is so high. You couldn't save that apartment for other people to rent in Nashua. Just go back to your $2 million home in Portsmouth. Please don't say that, because you do not understand regular people's concern. People cry in my arms on this issue.
Wow. Now, again, this is a woman who survived the Communist Party, moves to the United States. She's running for office, and Jake Sullivan's wife relocates back to the district. She's an astroturfer, and, that's... AstroTurf is not the right term, sorry. Carpetbagger. And she goes there. She's got a ton of seed money. Okay, absolute ton of seed money. And then you have this soundbite from Lily Tang as well. Oh, come on. You're not going to work on me? Man. Okay, so I have to go over to Twitter. Here you go. There you go. Hold on.
Around this state, from my neighborhood in Nashua all the way up to the North Country, I see Ukrainian flags everywhere I go. The people of New Hampshire understand that this is a fight for freedom and it's a fight for democracy. This is an unjust war that Vladimir Putin waged against a sovereign nation. My opponent believes that the path to peace is through Vladimir Putin. I know from my own professional experience that is just so dead wrong. Early in my career, if I could finish, please. Early in my career, I worked for Senator John McCain to take on Vladimir Putin. I'm banned from Russia for life because of that work. And I believe deeply in the cause of freedom in Ukraine.
Ms. Tom Williams, 30 seconds.
You math cannot add up, okay? And I'm very good with math. Maybe that's stereotype for aging Americans. If you want to pay all the stuff you want to pay, then do your math. How are we going to pay for it? Show me the path. Borrow money from China or print money to drive up inflation. And you say Ukrainian flag everywhere in Nashua. I have not seen that many. As I said, if Democrats want to do this, billionaires want to do this, neocons want to do this, please do. Donate your own money. So many people have died. It's time to bring peace and talk to the table. President Trump is talking about he will be for peace deals as soon as he gets elected. We cannot afford to engage in endless wars. And your husband, Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor, is causing world on fire because he's incompetent. He should get fired.
Lily Tang Williams in New Hampshire, man. I don't know if she's got a chance of winning this thing, but I think a star is born. She's right. Her husband, Jake Sullivan, is terrible. Jake Sullivan's the guy that talked about having that new information czar now. And Jake Sullivan is the guy that went out there and said, the Middle East has never been more peaceful, right before the terrorist attack on October 7th. And the whole Middle East is on fire. Is 100% right. Lily Tang Williams, man, this lady's going places. So she survived Mao and the Chinese Communist Party. She came to the United States, and now she's trying to become a member of Congress. Meanwhile, Jake Sullivan, who worked for Obama, for Hillary, for Joe Biden, is this other lady's husband. And now that lady wants to be in Congress? That joke about the Asian stereotype was freaking hysterical. She's sitting there talking about how we need to support Ukraine and everything else. It's like, well, I'm good at math. Maybe that's an Asian American stereotype, but where are you going to get the money from? So Lily Tang Williams went viral over the weekend after that debate performance, and good for her. I hope it helps her campaign. Hope it helps her campaign in some way. I don't know if she has a chance, but I certainly hope that she does. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be broadcasting live. For those of you near Mishawaka, I will be live at Monterey Mexican Bar and Grill doing the full show on Election Day. If you haven't voted yet, get up and go vote. If you did, go to a different district and vote again. I'm kidding. Democrats took me seriously, though, because they're going to do that. We'll see you tomorrow, Monterey Mexican Bar and Grill.
Podcasts by Federated Media.